Taiwan's incoming President William Lai is set for inauguration on Monday. He has been the Democratic Progressive Party's vice president for the last 4 years and is taking over from President Taiwan, who has been at the helm when the DPP took power in 2016. China asserts that the party is pro-independence, meaning the DPP's leadership, in Beijing's eyes, is pursuing the idea of establishing an independent country. Cross-strait relations have been strained since, with China ramping up military drills, as well as political pressure in a bid to assert its sovereignty over the island. The main reason for this is the party's rejection of the 1992 consensus, which Beijing views as the basis for maintaining ties with the island. Victoria Jen explains.
The 1992 consensus refers to the supposed result of a meeting that year between delegates from the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China in Taiwan. It laid down the groundwork for a landmark 1993 summit between top negotiators from both sides, China's Wang Daohan and Taiwan's Gu Zhenfu, signifying a remarkable thaw in relations after more than 4 decades of tensions. This so-called consensus came from a joint statement that addresses the meaning of one China. In it, both sides accepted the concept of one China, but hold different views on its interpretation. Beijing sees one China as People's Republic of China and assert that Taiwan is to become a special administrative region after reunification. Taiwan, on the other hand, considered China as the Republic of China founded in 1911, which has sovereignty over all of China by law. This, in essence, means that both sides define China differently. However, they were able to move past their varying views to enable subsequent cross-strait consultations. And the 1992 consensus was formally adopted as policy by the KMT's Ma Ying-jeou when he secured the presidency in 2008. During his 8 years in power, ties between Beijing and Taipei strengthened. Regular dialogues and consultations were held, resulting in the signing of 23 formal agreements. This era also saw commercial flights and trade surge between both sides. The positive upswing reached a pinnacle with the historic 2015 meeting in Singapore between then Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Both leaders emphasized bolstering bilateral ties based on the One China principle. That all changed when the DPP assumed power in 2016. Tsai Ing-wen, as Taiwan's president, avoided any explicit mention of the 1992 consensus or One China, angering Beijing. Subsequently, Beijing cut all former exchanges with the island. Fast forward to today. President-elect William Lai, also from the DPP, has vowed to maintain the status quo. He said that accepting the so-called 1992 consensus is equivalent to abandoning the sovereignty of Taiwan. And he also insists on equal footing and mutual respect as prerequisite for any dialogue with Beijing. China, on its part, has repeatedly denounced him as a dangerous separatist, which means that cross-strait relations will continue to be turbulent.
All right, and for more on the 1992 consensus, let's bring in Ina Tangen, Senior Fellow at Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asian Narratives, joining us from Beijing. We also have from Taiwan, James Chan, Assistant Professor from Tamkang University. Well, thanks, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. I've got a big picture question, which I would like to pose to both of you. Perhaps Professor Chen can start off first. And that is this 1992 consensus. It's basically been a cornerstone of cross-strait relations, but its meaning and its relevance has been increasingly disputed. So in your opinion, is this 1992 consensus still relevant? Professor Chen first.
I think it's still relevant to some people here in Taiwan, but, mainstream people, they are, having a difficulty to telling apart if this is the one China referring to the Republic of China or the one China referring to the People's Republic of China. So the one China issue becomes, one of the very intriguing points here in Taiwan. And I think, because some people, they still see the 1992 consensus with a very strong and important documents, for cross-strait to keep their communication. So I think there's still a room for 1992 consensus, to be used here in Taiwan.
Mr. Tang, and your thoughts?
Well, the 1992 consensus is very real. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it, obviously. The interpretations can, quote, differ, but, what cannot be denied is the benefits. There have been tremendous benefits conferred to Taiwan. Almost 40% in 2019 of Taiwan's economy was related to mainland China. Almost 10% of the entire workforce was in China. I wrote a book on a place called Kunshan, where there was about 50,000 Taiwanese businessmen living there. So the connections are very real. The issue is, does this current party want to recognize them, or are they willing to risk all on some sort of idea that they're in charge of the mainland?
Right. So, Professor Chen, then this one China principle, which has been a long-standing point of contention between Taiwan and China, do you think at any point both sides can find a compromise, or is the divide too wide?
If we say very clearly regarding to the one China, referring it as the People's Republic of China, I think there will be very little room for the audience or for the voters here in Taiwan to accept. However, if we return to the big picture, for instance, we use the idea of the Republic of China Constitution back into the foundation of the establishment of this country, that will be making more rooms for the cross-strait dialogue more possible and more feasible, because there will be more vague identification and definition on the one China thing. We can interpret the one China here in Taiwan as our own Republic of China instead of the PRC.
Right. Now, Mr. Tang, I want to talk about Taiwan's loss of diplomatic allies. And some people will say, the 1992 consensus, there's basically an erosion of that. But how does that implicate, Taiwan's resolve to be sovereign and independent?
Well, actually, what happened to Taiwan happened in the 70s. They were basically kicked out of the UN. They were denied their status as a country. And that was done by the United States. The U.S. subsequently passed laws saying there's a Taiwanese Relations Act, saying that, somehow we'll protect you, or at least try to make the reunification peaceful. But since that time, geopolitical rivalry has erected itself, and the U.S. is now going back on what it said and reinterpreting the three communiques that they signed, which clearly stated that there's only one China. So this is more than just Taiwan and the mainland. This is being instigated by the U.S. The good thing is that the current president only received 40% of the vote. He will not control the legislature. It's an indication that he's not representing the majority of people, simply the largest minority. I don't think anybody in Taiwan wants to risk kinetic warfare. They've seen what's happened in Ukraine. They've seen what the U.S. and Europe pushed Russia into doing. And they don't want to see that happening to them. Right now, you start looking at what's going on with the U.S. insisting that Taiwanese chip factories move to the United States, but they can't get it done there. The same chip that's manufactured in Taiwan that is manufactured in Arizona, the one in Arizona will cost 30% more. And that was the last estimate before there are new rounds of delays because they don't have the people to run them. Or to build them.
And Professor Yan, just picking up from what Mr. Tang was saying, that the U.S. has a complex relationship with both Taiwan and China, whether it's strategic, economic, and security interests at play. How does U.S. involvement then influence cross-strait dynamics and, the potential risks and benefits of that as well?
Yeah, because U.S. they need the advancement technology from the chip industries in Taiwan. So I think U.S. has been play a very active role for the cross-strait relations, because Taiwan they see as part of the first island chain for the security meaning and also for the industrial supply chain clusters. And these meanings are very important for the US, if they want to maintain their superpower status for the futures to come. So they will need the support from Taiwan, regardless of their political support, economic support, also for the technology support, if they want to, have this kind of persistent competition with China.
All right, gentlemen, we are going for a short break now, but do stay with us because we will continue this discussion on Taiwan's 1992 consensus, which Beijing sees as a basis for its relations with the island. Stay tuned for that.